This is my first 3D printer from back in 2014. It was $499. It was the XYZprinting Da Vinci 1.0. Came fully assembled, and it was the start of my print farm. This is the Bambu Lab P1S. In inflation-adjusted dollars, this is actually the same price, and actually it's a little cheaper right now because these are on sale. And it's got a lot of the same features, although this prints a heck of a lot better. So is this the new DaVinci 1.0, and is this the best printer for your print farm? Let's talk about it on today's Filament Friday. Now, a lot of times I refer to this as the modern day DaVinci 1.0, and there's reasons for that, because they share a lot of features. First off, they're both come fully assembled, ready to print. They can print higher temperature, like I said. Now, this one actually had a poop bucket inside. So the nozzle would come across, and it's actually got a scraper and a little soft piece here that would knock the filament off the nozzle and put it in the poop bucket, which you can remove like I did here. This one's got the same thing where it cleans the nozzle, scrapes across it, and then shoots it out a chute instead of a bucket. You got to put a bucket behind it to catch the poop, the filament that is cleaned off the nozzle. So very, very similar. This one had chipped cartridges, so it knew what material you were putting in and actually how much was left on the spool. This one, if you have the AMS unit, which is multicolor, which this one you couldn't do, this one multicolor, it'll read the code or whatever that's in the spool, the Bambu Studio spool, so it knows what material is. But I don't know of any printers today that'll tell you how much is left on a spool. So it doesn't do that. But this one also had a hot end assembly, which was kind of one metal unit. You couldn't replace the nozzle. So if you wanted to change it, you had to change the whole assembly. This thing is very similar. It's got a hot end assembly. It doesn't have a removable nozzle, but you can much easier replace the hot end assembly. But that's how, again, very, very similar. And this one had an LCD, which you would click. You push these buttons, either up or down, left or right, and then there's a home button to go through the 2x16 LCD to run the different functions that you wanted to do. This is very similar. You got a up and down, left and right, and you can go home, but it's the same thing. You're just going through a basic LCD. So in that case, there's a lot of similarities. And then price, like I said, they're very similar. But this one, of course, is a modern day version. It does auto level. This doesn't. It does a lot of adjustment, self-calibration. This one didn't. This thing prints like 3 times faster than this thing ever did. The print quality is phenomenally better, but it's down in that same price range. So we've advanced as a community, as 3D printing world, we've advanced from this to this in about 10 years. And so to me, this is the modern day DaVinci 1.0. In a previous video, I talked about how this was my first 3D printer, and it became the first printer in a print farm where I printed flags, mailbox flags. And this thing only printed ABS, but that was perfect for mailbox flags, which are going to be outside. It's the same plastic using Lego blocks. So it's actually pretty good for that, but it couldn't do PLA or anything like that, where this machine can do ABS, PLA, PETG, and some other high temperature filaments, which is really good for a print farm because now you can pretty much print anything you want, especially things that are going to be outside or under impact or a lot of force, because PLA is only good for a certain amount of things. So a bed slinger typically can't print ABS or high temp plastics easily. You can do it, but not easily. So you kind of want an enclosed printer, but you don't want to pay a lot either. Because if you pay too much for a printer, then if it ever fails and you got to replace it, you lose a lot of your profit trying to, buy a new machine. Where this thing being essentially under $500 in 2014 dollars, so you're looking at under $600. That's really affordable. And with the features this has and the print quality you get out of it, it's one of the best. I'm not saying it's the best. I don't know what the best is, but to me, it's one of the best printers that you can choose for a print farm. I use it in a mini print farm, just a couple of printers, for things I print still to this day. Now, I've also found over time that this is becoming my go-to for a test print. This thing prints so good on those first prints. I do some on the Prusa Core 1, which is about twice the price, but it prints really good. But I found this actually is more reliable for me than this one some of the time. And that's why I go to this one first. And the fact that this is closed source and that DaVinci 1.0 is closed source, that's another similarity. So I'm not going to be messing with this. Where this one is still somewhat open source, and you can actually access electronics. There's a board you can do different things with it. So this is really more of an experimental machine to me. This is like my prototype machine, which is what 3D printing is all about. For example, I like die-cast racing or Hot Wheel racing, and there's a channel, 3D Bot Maker. He's got this incredible track, and he runs these tournaments with Hot Wheels cars that people send in. It's just a lot of fun to watch. Even my grandkids like watching it. And I'd like to build his track or a form of his track for my grandkids, for us to play with. I just love doing it. I used to race stock cars for like 10 years when I was younger. So I've got that racing blood in me. And sharing that with my grandkids is a lot of fun. And I've actually scanned Hot Wheels track, the wide stuff, trying to reproduce it. But recently, I've been designing my own. So I've designed these sections. They're like 150 millimeter section, and you can slide connectors in. They got guides, straight walls. I don't like these angled walls that come on these because a car can easily fly out of it, which makes it fun on the 3D Bot Maker channel because it goes into the crowd and they have fun with it. But I'd like to keep it so the cars stay in the track. So I've designed these that connect together, but they're still compatible with the wide track. And also, they're still compatible with the original Hot Wheels track using connectors, 3D printed connectors. So I'm having a lot of fun with this, but most of this was developed using the P1S because I could throw a print at this. It would print one of these tracks in an hour. I could make modifications, throw another one at it. And then once I got it to where I wanted it like this, I could print 8 of these in 8 hours. It takes about an hour to print one of these. So I'd let it run overnight, and every one of them is excellent quality, absolutely excellent quality. So it could also be a print farm for this if I ever decided to make this some kind of kit. Now, what I love most about 3D printing is you can come up with an idea, and now you can print it pretty fast with really high quality on most of the modern machines. And like I said, this has kind of become my go-to, but in this case, I wanted a track that wasn't flexible. Hot Wheels tracks are flexible, they're designed to be that way, but if you're building a big track like 3D Bot Maker, I want sections where I don't have to put a bunch of supports underneath it. So I wanted something that was pretty stiff and also locked together nicely, but I could change sections, but still compatible with the bank turns and everything else. So that's where this came from. And the idea that I could print this in 1 hour, one section took 1 hour in this machine at a 0.28 layer height. At 0.28, the quality is fantastic. And so once I got the design down, I printed 8 of them overnight. And so now I can print them over and over again on the same machine I was prototyping in. So now I'm going to be able to print the track that I want a whole lot quicker, cranking them out from a print farm machine. Now I also like to look at where things are going and what people think and are using or searching for. And one way I do that is in Google Trends, and I search under YouTube section, what they're searching on YouTube. And I always use as a base Ender 3. If I put Ender 3 into Google Trends, it's almost synonymous with 3D printing in general. It comes at the top. It's still a popular search term in YouTube. Some of my older Ender 3 videos still are some of my top viewed videos. So there's still an audience for that. But what I've noticed is some printers are creeping up and approaching the Ender 3 line. So if I compare search terms of specific printers, like say the Prusa Core 1, this is relatively new and it's somewhat popular, but it's just a blip in that search term relative to Ender 3. There's a new one from Elegoo, the Century Carbon. I don't even have one. This is really just an image that I'm showing. And it's showing some progress. It's showing definitely some interest. And that's a low-cost version of this guy. It's getting good reviews from other YouTubers. If I look at, say, the A1 or the A1 Mini, they both are working their way up. They're even higher than the Century Carbon. But when I search on the P1S, it actually meets or exceeds the Ender 3 line, which says this is becoming far more popular with a lot more people. Now, I know some people who've had these for a while, they're like, welcome to the party, Chuck. We've known about this for a while. And I'm more open source guy. I prefer open source equipment, but this thing has won me over. There's just no doubt about it. It's won me over. And I'm really loving what I'm doing with this diecast racing track. So if you're interested in this, let me know in the comments below. Maybe I'll explain it more in another video. But overall, I'd say I understand why people are happy with this. Even Tom from Made with Layers has admitted that maybe bamboo is one. He did a video on that. So it's really interesting to see the transition from old timers like me and Tom, who's been doing it longer than I have, are transitioning over and accepting the fact that, yeah, we don't like closed source, but man, they did a good job with this. I want to give a shout out to all my Patreon supporters out there. Your support makes this channel possible, so thank you. If you like what I'm doing here, maybe check out some of the videos popping up. If you want to help support the channel, Patreon is one way, or a membership at things.com. And if nothing else, click on the logo and subscribe. I'll see you next time right here at Chuck Hellebuck's Electronic Products and Filament Friday.